Welcome back, Wrench Nation. Frank hanging out with you at the Apex 2021. It's part of our look inside the industry. Boy, man, if you missed the Apex here in Vegas, next year, please get it on your list. Joe's Garage, fantabulous interaction. A lot of you, the Zoom, you got burned out on the Zoom, and you're anxious to come out and meet and greet and get one-on-one. And speaking of one-on-one, ADAS, Mr. Richard Zenteno with AUTEL. Welcome to Wrench Nation.
Thanks, Frank.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
When we talk about one-on-one, this is it. Like,
awesome.
You get to meet a lot of folks and cover some of the things. You know, ADAS or ADAS. How is it officially pronounced, by the way?
ADAS.
ADAS. Some depending on what part of the country, ADAS. You know, what have you. But talk to the folks. What is ADAS and you know, why the big deal for push technology in the vehicles? Talk to us about that.
Absolutely. So ADAS, Advanced Driver Assisted Systems. So these systems have two purposes. The first one being increased safety, right? We are dealing with drivers now that have technology, a lot of technology and a lot of distractions on the road.
Yeah, I think the number is, 47,000 a year deaths?
Yes, exactly.
From human error?
Exactly. Yeah. And so these systems are geared toward increasing that safety factor in the vehicle, right? And number two purpose is decreasing the number and or the severity of accidents on the road.
Minimizes, yeah.
Right.
So on my car, let's give an example for those that are really, I mean, they may be driving and not aware. What are the items on a vehicle? Most people understand they go into a garage, you need a tune-up, keep the vehicle running safe and reliable, brakes and stuff, but what could a garage come back saying that they need if that pesky light's on the dash? Talk to us about the systems on the car that are keeping folks safe that may break down.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have two very critical component types in ADAS. They're radar-based, so they're detection and ranging components. So they want to see the presence of an object and how far that object is from the vehicle. And then we have camera-based components, which are primarily for object classification. So it gives you the form. What is it? Is it a person?
Sort of the
is
shape
it a vehicle?
And form signature.
Right?
Yeah.
So when we are calibrating and thinking about calibrations in these components, it is critical that these components are aligned, and it's just like your scale. When you get on your scale in the morning, right?
Yeah.
You want to
some of us want it to lie to us.
Yeah,
if it's
right.
10 pounds
minus 10. Minus 10 pounds. But anyway, I mean, it's like zeroing out that field of view.
Yeah.
And having the system really be able to respond in time. Now, how those systems primarily needing to be serviced is, number one, windshield, right? If
so if somebody gets their windshield replaced and they've got a camera sitting in that rearview mirror.
Yes.
So are windshield companies prepared for this?
Well, what we're seeing is that more and more collision shops and glass shops are getting into calibrations because they're seeing, hey, I am disconnecting that camera, I am removing it from from the bracket on the windshield and resetting it on a new windshield. And so thus I'm actually affecting the position of the camera. Where it's seeing, is it seeing straight ahead? Like, just picture that road straight ahead. The left side of the road and the right side of the road, they're meeting in the horizon, right? That's called the vanishing point. So that should be our center of the field of view. Now, if I were altering ever so slightly that view, now I could be looking downwards instead of straight out.
And so for the consumer, because a lot of folks, this is new to them, that if they get their windshield replaced, they need to make sure that's all calibrated.
Right.
What will a consumer experience if they replace the windshield and the calibration is not done? What symptoms would they have?
So there's various symptoms. One of them, which is the lane departure warning system. What
is that? Talk to the folks about that.
Lane departure, okay. This system, it's a software developed to get the information from the camera and the position of the vehicle relative to those lane markings. So if my vehicle strays, it's going outside, somebody is texting, right, and driving, you can see them swerving.
Yeah.
Hey, it's actually telling you, hey, pay attention, you're going outside of that line.
It's going to correct in some occasions.
Yes. So we have two types of ADAS systems. We have an active and a passive. The passive is going to warn people about you're going outside of the lane. The active system is actually going to correct. So it's going to warn you and it's going to correct you.
Do you see cars going more to the corrective eventually?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we are all going to that self-driving vehicle, right? This is just a stepping stone.
Do you think our grandkids will laugh at us and say, they actually drove?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell us more. I mean, you've got radar, you've got cameras. They need to be calibrated.
So
what
two
else
things, two things really critical here, Frank. One is there's a component, right, the camera, and then there's the software that is developed. For example, right, I've got that lane departure software, but I also have other softwares like pedestrian detection or automatic emergency braking or pre-collision systems. And then I also have traffic sign recognition,
I see.
right?
And
so
that would be
these
recognizing
are
speeds and things like that? Yeah.
What it's doing is focusing on those traffic signs as I'm driving by, and it's going to say, hey, the speed limit here is 35 miles an hour. It's going to put that on your dash, right? Same camera input, but different software. So when I'm calibrating the component, the camera, the radar, not the software, right? And so
interesting.
Very, very important.
So you're
here,
doing the mechanical hardware alignment.
Yes, the component.
Gotcha.
So you're going to basically tell that component, here is the position, your zero position, right? 0 point calibration.
Gotcha.
So other instances where I would have to calibrate alignment, thrust angle. If I'm varying the direction of travel of the vehicle, well, now where the camera sees as the straight ahead position and where the actual vehicle is traveling is affected, right? They're in disparity.
Right, so that's synchronized, sure.
We have to align them so that they're traveling and they're recognizing this is the straight ahead position.
Gotcha.
I could be viewing in a radar instance, right, where I have adaptive cruise control. Just picture somebody that removed that front grille where the radar was mounted and now puts the grille back. That grille, the position side to side, the yaw, radar could be looking at to oncoming traffic. So just think about somebody that has their adaptive cruise control on, right?
Sure.
And all of a sudden now, a car is coming like, it's a two-lane street.
Sure.
So he could be coming and the radar could be seeing that car on the other lane and brake. Right?
And
Imagine the rear.
That's not operating as designed.
Exactly.
Yeah, gotcha.
I mean, so these are the things that are happening, actually. We've had instances and reports of people getting into wrecks because their system is seeing completely in a different lane.
What are the warning lights for consumers that they'll see? Well, I mean, I know you got the notorious check engine light.
Right.
What light would it be? A check engine light that comes
So
up?
here's the thing with ADAS, right? There's really no standardization as of yet.
Oh, wow.
You remember like OBD2 and OBD1,
OBD1,
right?
yeah. Well, we cut our teeth in OBD1. That wasn't easy. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that way with ADAS right now.
So it's developing.
It's still in that stage where we're kind of working things out, figuring what's going to work better for the system.
But the thing is, again, speaking to the consumers, I could ask, because this is kind of alarming if you've got a few reports where the camera is looking in the wrong way, not correlating.
Yes.
And certainly the adaptive cruise control is designed to brake, recognizing distances and so on. That's a big deal. How does the consumer know they actually have a problem? I mean, can a technician do a sweep of the system if they believe there's something wrong? I mean, how's that done?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's going to be some complaint.
A symptom that's recorded. Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah.
And what we're going to need to do is verify, and there's readings, right? Live data we can go in with. As a technician, I can go in
and look at parameters,
look
see what's
at
out.
parameters
Sure.
and seeing so on and so forth. But primarily for consumer is the operation of the system. And here is another critical component. Most drivers don't know what their vehicle is equipped with. Unfortunately,
They don't do a walk around when they buy that. Like back in
Exactly.
the day, you buy a new $60,000 vehicle, they spend a few hours. Now they give you a little CDA, go home and learn your vehicle.
exactly.
And for a lot of my soccer mom clients, let's face it, they're like, they're busy in life.
exactly.
They want to be able to not so much become technicians of their vehicles,
Right.
but they have a
just
right
know
to
what-
understand the safety stuff, and they don't know.
Exactly. It's
So
there
how do you
for a
get? I want to
reason.
speak to those consumers that may
Right.
not be getting that at the dealer. Some dealers
Yes.
are, some aren't.
Yes.
How would they find out
Okay.
about those systems?
Okay, so very, very important. There's a website called mycardoeswhat.org. Okay?
mycardoeswhat.org.
If you
I'll
haven't-
have that in the links.
If you
Yeah.
haven't seen that, that's it's a organization from the State University of Iowa, and it's in cooperation with the Safety Council. And basically, that site gives you very, let's just say, simplified explanation of
Which covers,
automatic
ADAS,
emergency
yeah,
braking,
yeah.
lane departure.
you put your VIN number in, is that how that works? Or you
No,
year,
it's
make,
just
and model?
basically generalized
Okay,
videos
gotcha.
of how these systems operate.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's a way where consumers can be educated, and this is the reason why I want to be at a show, is to educate. We really need to educate our customer about what is on their vehicle.
Yeah, and I'm anxious to say, too, there's a lot of shops, local Rockstar community-minded shops that will actually do a walk around with you. We do that at our garage.
Yes.
And I know a lot of others do the same because they're not getting that information. So that's a good piece of information.
Yes.
How many cars out there, Richard, have these systems?
Wow. I mean, that's such a great question. Let's talk about the ADAS market for a moment, right? Because there are over 64 million vehicles on the road today. That's over 27% of vehicles, 1 in 4 vehicles with ADAS. Now, in 2020, 92.7% of vehicles had at least one ADAS component. Most manufacturers and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration have agreed that pre-collision systems like automatic emergency braking, forward collision warning,
Which is
are
standard.
critical
Yeah.
to
Right.
avoiding or decreasing that number of accidents. You remember the objective of ADAS we talked about,
minimize
right?
those deaths on the freeway
Right.
or on the
So-
roads. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
most
Or eliminate it
manufacturers,
completely. I mean, that's what I've read.
yeah, most manufacturers are recognizing that, and they're implementing those systems as standard, right? So 2021, 22 is where we're going to see like almost 100% of vehicles having that pre-collision system. Okay, so talking about the market, right? Over 64 million, over 27% of vehicles on the road now with ADAS. And how that market is going to grow on the calibration side, from 300,000 calibrations in 2018 in shop to 5.4 million calibrations by 2023.
Well, let's talk about
That's
that because
18 times growth.
some in the industry, and we're right now from that camp. Like,
Yes.
I have a ton of tools. We spend a lot of money every year, both software and hardware, tools and equipment.
Yes.
When is it time for me to buy some? I mean, you just mentioned a huge difference. It is growing. I mean,
Right.
that's a big number. But how would you advise me as a shop owner? Am I ready for this? I mean,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, absolutely. Number one, educate yourself, right?
Right.
Learn about these systems. Train your people to recognize these systems on the vehicle. Be able to do a visual inspection on the vehicle. Recognize, okay, this vehicle
Can you talk about the visual inspection?
Yes.
If a shop were to do that, they're already
Yes.
doing a bumper to bumper.
Right. How can
Physically looking at the hardware,
Yes.
cameras for any obstacles.
Absolutely.
That-
You're
talk
looking
about it.
at a cutouts on the windshield, right? If you're seeing that lens, we're going to see these multi-function systems on the brackets on the windshields that are potentially LiDAR and light sensor, rain sensor. We're also seeing that monocular stereoscopic camera lens on the windshield, right?
So in my mind, I got to interject, like we already do the digital inspections, right? We could perhaps put a line item that says basic safety awareness system check.
Yes.
And that's not too much time. I mean, we're not
Right.
going deep into data. We're not.
Right.
But I like
Just-
that because we're
just-
planting the seed. We're letting our clients know that we're capable of
Exactly.
doing the next level, which we'll talk
Exactly.
about. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Look at the front of the
Sure.
vehicle on the grill. Is there a radar or a sensor mounted onto that grill? Look at the mirrors, right? Are there any lights on those mirrors
Gotcha,
for
yeah.
blind spot?
Right,
Right.
right.
And all your cameras on underneath the rear view mirrors around view monitoring, right? So we have a lot of these systems, and by a external visual inspection, I can recognize those pieces of hardware outside. Then I can go in and get into the vehicle and look for buttons, right? I have an on-off button for the lane departure, and a way for the adaptive cruise control, a way to set the distance between my car and the vehicle in front of
Sure.
me. So you're going to have those like options to
That's
recognize
one
these
inside cab
systems,
to be able to
right?
recognize.
Yes.
But I like the idea because, ADAS is kind of new for a lot of us in the industry.
Absolutely.
In tackling, what's the next step for us.
Right.
I like from a marketing point of view to inform, you said
Yes.
this very important, not only technicians in the service space, but the clients that come in through the garage. If we're doing this sort of safety check,
Yes.
then it plants the seed. They may not have a problem at the time, but if
Yes.
they do, who are they thinking of? They're thinking of us. I love that
Yes.
idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the education process piece, very, very important. And then, I think part of the show, and I'd love to come back and we can expand this. Such a vast, field, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger and more, right? AUTEL really brings that complex complexity of systems and simplifies it in a user interface for multi-vehicle purpose, right, for us in the aftermarket. And so we are able to do those camera and radar calibrations.
Could you talk about that? There's sort of two styles, and then before we disconnect, I do want to address some of the argument in the industry is, well, I don't have enough space. But talk to us.
Exactly.
Let's get into the little bit of the technicals of how we do that.
Yes.
There's two forms of calibration. Talk to
yes.
us about that.
So we have primarily two types of calibrations. There's static and there's dynamic. Okay, in static calibrations, we have a controlled environment, right? So we have a controlled lighting, a controlled background, but dynamics, we don't have that control over the environment. We can't control the traffic. We're going to have to be going and driving over 35 miles an hour if I'm doing a calibration for lane departure, right? So those components, dynamic, I'm standing still in a shop, in a controlled environment, using targets, and dynamic, I'm driving the vehicle, right? Now, 62% of vehicles on the road use static calibration.
So is that answer to the argument that most so far, well, not, I'd say 62% is a big number.
Yes.
That doesn't require a whole lot of space because we're not doing that dynamic function. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so this is a very critical point. I think a lot of people think I'm going to have to do a major upgrade to my repair facility to accommodate something like this. The truth of the matter is you don't. You work with what you have. I'll give you an example. We walk into this tire shop or the shop, they have racks, they have a wall of tires in the background, right? It's failing the calibration. Why? Because they had a white wall and tires stacked.
And that's going to alter. Sure,
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So the camera is kind of like freaking out. What is this? I'm seeing this target, but then I'm seeing all these other black and white patterns. What do? We hang a string line and a curtain.
So like a curtain.
Shower curtain.
Simple
And
fix.
a background.
Gotcha.
And simple fix, right?
Yeah.
Another typical situation. Well, I don't have 3 meters is what typically from the front center axle out, it's about 3 meters space for you to place the target typically, right? Depends on the manufacturer. But if you don't have that space, we'll roll the car back so that you can have that space. And so you work with what you have. With ADAS, you can make thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah, it's another great service opportunity. You mentioned numbers 2 and 3, 4 years prior.
Right.
Where do you see ADAS? Where do you predict ADAS? What's the number suggest 3 to 5 years from now?
As far as number of calibrations?
Of increase of calibrations. Like,
Yeah.
what can we expect?
Well, that's what I was telling you. It's an 18 times. It's growing by 18 times. So from 300,000 calibrations in shop to 5.4 million by
math.
2023. So in 5 years, it's going to grow 18 times.
Wow, so there's opportunity for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, the worst thing we can do is invest in equipment that we don't use. A lot of you, we have it. You know, you bought something, maybe you use it once or twice a year, but this is happening.
Yeah, think about it. These vehicles are not going to go away. 2013 and newer vehicles, you're going to be seeing them in your shop if you're not seeing them already. So first, learn how to identify the system. Second, if you're going to buy a frame that has the most coverage out there, right? We have 2 different types of solutions depending on the business model that you as a shop owner want to have. If you want to do the calibrations in shop and you want to have people bringing the vehicles to you, whether they are body shops or you're subletting the service to other shops, you can have the standard solution, the in-shop frame.
Where can folks find that if they want to sort of test drive online? Of course, you're here at Apex doing an amazing job. You do a lot of trade shows.
Yes.
Very interactive booth. You've got sessions going on.
Absolutely.
Really showing folks how to test drive the system.
Yes.
Where can they find it if they've not been at any expos recently?
Okay, so a few places where we have demonstrations of our equipment. Number 1 is YouTube. If you go to YouTube, AUTEL US, you can type and search for IA800. So the AUTEL IA800 is a camera-based system that has an in-shop frame. And so this is for the shops that want to do the calibrations to those vehicles, to the camera and to the radar components. Now the second business model is our portable solution. So if you want to go to and have somebody
mobile,
go to other shops and do the calibrations at other shops, we have that solution as well. So both systems have the ability to do calibrations on all these types of sensors, whether it's being camera, LiDAR, radar, night vision, around view, blind spots, all those AUTEL has covered. That's why we are the leader in ADAS.
Yeah, we have quite a few of your other scan. We just pulled the trigger on your latest and greatest scan device. Love it.
The Ultra.
With graphing, graphing capability. We have a few other devices as well to complement, but techs in the garage really like that. Lastly, support. The worst thing we can do is invest in piece of equipment, tool, technology.
Yes.
And we don't get the support.
Training.
You guys are like legend on support and training. Talk to us about that.
Yes, one of the things that we want to very openly state is that we offer training for ADAS. If you're going to buy our equipment and you're buying it from an authorized distributor, we're going to support that distributor with training. We currently have over 6 people in the training department, and we're growing as we're seeing the need for these systems. So in-shop training, we have also virtual tablet setup. So we go in and we set up your tablet, get you ready for that training session, go in, do the training, and then the support piece, we're going to have just a group dedicated to ADAS.
Yeah, that's important.
We have a group for TPMS, we have a group for diagnostics, we also have a group dedicated to ADAS.
That's awesome. Richard Zenteno with AUTEL. You rock. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You guys make sure to check out the show link, all the information on AUTEL. Listen, don't be bashful or fearful or get in all the fake news that's out there about all this new technology. Do the research yourself. make sure you're partnering up with a company that will support you along the way. I'm Frank with Wrench Nation. We'll catch up soon.